You're good to go.
Well, thank you so much. I first just wanted to thank the South Florida Wildlife Center for inviting us to present at the Wild Lecture Series. We're really excited about it. My name is Katie. I'm the Conservation Manager here at Loggerhead Marine Life Center. And today we will be talking about how we can best respect the locals, which are the sea turtles, this nesting season. So for those of you who don't know, Loggerhead Marine Life Center is a nonprofit sea turtle hospital and ocean conservation center. We're located in Juno Beach, Florida. And our mission is to promote the conservation of ocean ecosystems with a special focus on threatened and endangered sea turtles. LMC began by one woman. Her name was Eleanor Fletcher, and everyone around here called her the Turtle Lady. I always like to kind of start with this screen and this photo because I think that she is so inspiring, and she just really encompasses this quote here that's one of my favorites, and it's never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. Our entire organization here, again, started in 1983, but started because Eleanor Fletcher would just walk on the beach and she was like, gosh, there's so many sea turtles here. What is going on? And she decided that she really needed to share how special sea turtles were. And one of my favorite stories, I'm not 100% sure if this is true or not, but that Eleanor used to be able to protect the nest on our beach here, used to walk the beaches with her German Shepherd dog and a golf club and be like, listen, if anyone gets near my nests, like I'm not messing around here. So just her passion for sea turtles and just for conservation and marine life is very inspiring, and just one of my favorite things about Loggerhead Marine Life Center. But branching off of that, Loggerhead Marine Life Center today is comprised of pretty much 4 pillars of sea turtle conservation. So we have our 4 main departments here that all work kind of together, but all do some very different things. So we have our rehabilitation department, and they're obviously responding to the stranded sea turtles, the calls that we get, but they're also taking those sea turtles in and they are helping to heal them so they can go back into the ocean. Not only are they healing these sea turtles, but we're a teaching hospital. So we bring in students to learn more about sea turtle medicine and how they can make this a career. And then we send them off with that knowledge to do wonderful things in other places for sea turtle rehabilitation. We also have our research department. This is right now their busiest time. They're the ones you see out on ATVs monitoring the beach for nesting activities. So they're out there patrolling the night and during the mornings, and doing a lot of research with those nests, which we'll talk about more. We have our education department. We are a totally free facility, so we like to make sure that there are no barriers in place for anyone to learn about the ocean and sea turtles. So we have a lot of on-campus educational programming, but we also work within the schools locally, and we have summer camps going on and all kinds of fun things to help people learn more. And then my personal favorite, I'm a little biased, but is our conservation department. So we're here just trying to make sure that we're creating programs and implementing various things to make sure that the sea turtles don't come to the hospital in the first place, and we're protecting those species and those populations. Florida sea turtles. So at least in Florida waters, there are 5 types of sea turtles that can be found. There are the loggerheads, the greens, the leatherbacks, the hawksbills, and the Kemp's ridleys. So you can see them all here on the screen. And 3 of those species lay their eggs on southeast Florida beaches. So we get loggerheads, greens, and leatherbacks that are laying their eggs on our beaches here. And we'll talk again a lot more about that. Sea turtles are really unique because they are marine and terrestrial animals. So they come up on land, but they're also obviously in the ocean. But that also means that they face threats in both of those different realms. So that is very unlike a lot of species on this planet that really only face threats in one realm, and they have to kind of adapt to 2 or get around those threats in 2 different areas. Sea turtles also play really important roles in both of these realms. So their marine roles are, there are three of the main ones here on the screen that you can see. They play a really important role with our seagrasses. They help to keep the seagrass healthy because they're kind of like cows of the sea by grazing across that grass, which helps it grow in a uniform fashion across the sea floor. But they also digest that seagrass, which comes out the other end as nutrients for other organisms. And seagrass beds, because of this really important nutrient recycling that sea turtles do, they're one of the most valuable ecosystems in our ocean because of that nutrient recycling action that's done. They also play a really important role in coral reefs, which you can see right here with this hawksbill. Hawksbill sea turtles are important out there because they feed primarily on sponges, and that helps to ensure that the coral reefs stay diverse. It helps to control sponge populations that might otherwise outcompete corals for space. So that helps to make sure that our coral reefs stay vibrant and full of many different species, which we know helps that coral to thrive. And then finally, the open ocean. Leatherback sea turtles, which are our largest sea turtle species, are one of the few marine animals that actually eat jellies. So that helps to balance the jellyfish populations that are out in the open ocean. So I thank them a lot because I know that we don't really want to be swimming in an ocean full of jellies without them maintaining those populations. And they actually eat about twice their weight in jellies a day, which I don't know about you, but I can imagine eating that much Jello. So I props to them for sure. But they also play really important terrestrial roles that I think people don't necessarily think about. If you kind of look at the dune environment on the beaches and that dune grass, that's not a very nutrient rich system. There really aren't a lot of nutrients in that sand and not a lot of ways for that grass to get those important nutrients that it needs to grow and to thrive. But as we all know, sea turtles lay their eggs on the sand. Sea turtles and up in the dunes, they lay about 3 to 7 nests. So one female sea turtle can lay about 3 to 7 nests. And in those nests are about 50 to 200 eggs. So there can be anywhere between that range during nesting season. As you can imagine, not every single egg is going to hatch. Some of the nests don't hatch at all, which is sad, but that provides some really important nutrients and necessary things for that dune grass to be able to grow healthy. And that in turn is actually making sure that the sea turtles have a beach to come back to, because the roots from the dune grass help prevent erosion on the beach and help make sure that those beaches will stay there for years to come. So the turtles have a place to come back to lay their eggs. So here in Palm Beach County, this year alone to date, sorry, not in Palm Beach County entirely, but at least in the beaches that Loggerhead Marinelife Center we monitor for nesting season. And that's about 9.5 miles of beach that we monitor. And so far in 2022 alone, we have over 4,459 nests, because I have not talked to research today. So it's definitely probably a little bit more after they went out there this morning. But if you think about it, that's 9.5 miles of beach, and nesting season is not even close to being over yet. I believe it was 2019. But in that 9.5 mile stretch of beach, we had just 2 nests shy of 21,000 nests on 9.5 miles alone. So I said our research team is very busy, and I think you can kind of see why. And then right now, greens have just started to come in and start laying their nests. So that number will skyrocket probably pretty soon. So what we're going to talk about today, what the main focus of this presentation is, the anthropogenic or human-caused threats to Florida sea turtles during nesting season, and how Loggerhead Marinelife Center is helping with conservation efforts to help protect sea turtles from these threats, but then also how everyone as an individual can help with this as well. So the main points we'll be talking about are fisheries interactions, boating interactions, marine debris, and habitat loss and terrestrial threats. So sea turtles die, unfortunately, every year from being caught in active and derelict or lost or discarded fishing gear and nets. And Burt Reynolds was one of our sea turtle patients that we had here at Loggerhead that's a really good example of that. Burt Reynolds is the first olive ridley, or he was the first olive ridley to strand as far north as Martin County in Florida. And he is only the, or she, we don't know actually, the fifth olive ridley to be documented in the state of Florida. Olive ridleys are typically pelagic species, so they don't tend to come really close to shore. But Burt Reynolds came to us actually entangled in this net that you can see here. And for reference, that was about 70 pounds of net. So when this fishing line or when ropes or anything like that is accidentally lost or discarded in the ocean, it really does cause a huge entanglement risk for our sea turtles. So that's one of the examples. Another one is actually recreational fisheries. So we manage the Juno Beach fishing pier as well, right here in Juno Beach, Florida. And we actually see all too commonly that sea turtles, especially during nesting season, when they're coming in closer to shore, they're very active near the shorelines. They are accidentally hooked or entangled by recreational anglers on fishing piers. You can see in the one photo with the kind of lure sticking out of that little turtle's flipper. That one was accidentally just swimming by and got hooked. And then the other one in this photo, you can tell tried to go after some bait. So this is something that we really commonly see here. So what are we doing about it? Loggerhead Marine Life Center, we established something called the Responsible Pier Initiative, where we work collaboratively with anglers on fishing piers to give them the tools and training to respond to sea turtles if they're accidentally hooked or entangled while they're fishing. A lot of these turtles are big, they can break the lines very easily. So as long as the anglers know the proper steps and exactly who to call, we kind of work with them to respond effectively to these interactions. So this program started right here in Juno Beach, Florida, and now is in 5 states and Puerto Rico. So we have partners with on fishing piers in all of these areas. And these are the stats to date, which we are pretty thrilled about. So there are reported interactions, but there are also a lot of sea turtle rescues that have been successful from this program. We also throughout at least Palm Beach County, and I know there are other ones in other counties in Florida, but have installed monofilament recovery and recycling bins. So one thing that we can all do as just people that are here in Florida helping to protect wildlife of all kinds is dispose of fishing line and monofilament in the appropriate receptacles. These tubes you will find in a lot of the very common fishing areas, and they're really important to utilize because if fishing line is maybe put in a trash can or thrown into the ocean, all species of wildlife can become entangled in it if they come in contact with it. So these are regularly emptied, and they just help to make sure that we're keeping our marine environment, but also our terrestrial environment clean and free of entanglement threats to wildlife. In 2021, this program, just in Palm Beach County alone, was responsible for over 300 miles of monofilament that was collected and actually recycled through this program. And that can stretch the length of the Juno Beach Pier 160 times. So it's a lot of fishing line. One of the other things that we unfortunately see all too commonly are boating interactions, especially when it's nesting season. We see a huge influx in, unfortunately, boat strikes on our sea turtles. During this time, sea turtles are coming close to shore to lay their eggs. They are mating on the surface, and this incident has actually tripled in Florida since 1980. So we're seeing definitely a lot of this happening. Unfortunately, when we do have boat strike stranding calls, they have about a 91% mortality rate for these sea turtles. So when they are coming into contact with boats and it's accidental, it's very hard to see them. They're not really able to survive this. So I basically just said these things, but as you can see, the final point is, especially when it comes to loggerhead and green boat strikes, they are largely corresponded with major nesting beaches. So when you know that there are a lot of sea turtles in the area and waiting in the shallow water to come up and nest, that is where a lot of these boat strikes are occurring. So it's one of the larger issues. But what are we doing about it? And then we'll talk about what you can do about it. Loggerhead Marine Life Center, in partnership with the Archie Carr Center for Sea Turtle Research, has established what we're calling the Sea Turtle Protection Zone. So within the area that Loggerhead Marine Life Center is monitoring for nesting, we're actually working collaboratively with the local boating community to provide science-based recommendations and best practices for boaters while out on the water, to make sure that they are doing everything they can to prevent an accidental boat strike of a sea turtle. This zone is actually an established zone. There are no markers, but we're just letting people know that this is the best place to go. But it extends 1 mile from shore, from the Jupiter Inlet to the Lake Worth Inlet. It's a completely voluntary zone. So we're really just trying to provide this information of where we know there's a large amount of sea turtles that are going to be present from March to October, which is nesting season. Provide this information to the boating community so they can make the best decisions on how to actively go about avoiding accidentally hitting turtles. So within the zone, we're recommending idle speed whenever possible, or just avoiding it if you can. Go out further than 1 mile and then travel, but that is the best way to not accidentally hit a boat or turtle, sorry. And then how everyone can help when they're boating out on the water. So limiting travel within the Sea Turtle Protection Zone is a really big one. If you're not traveling within that zone, you have a very, very decreased risk of coming in contact with a turtle. When you are within that zone, travel at a minimum speed, because turtles, it's been shown that they cannot actively avoid boats going faster than 2 miles per hour. So that's very slow. So there, you can't count on those turtles to get out of the way. We just have to be very vigilant. And then wearing polarized sunglasses, that will just help better spot wildlife at the surface in general. So that will allow boaters to have the time to avoid an interaction, but it'll also help you avoid anything that might be in the water that might even damage your boat. Marine debris. This is another large one that we see all too commonly. It's an estimated that over 8.5 million metric tons of plastic enters the ocean every single year. 8.5 million metric tons. That's a huge number. It's really hard for me to even imagine 8.5 million metric tons of anything, but that is the equivalent of an entire garbage truck of plastic being dumped into the ocean every minute of every day for a year. And the problem with this plastic is once it enters the marine environment, it will never go away. It will never not be plastic. Instead, it just breaks down over time into smaller and smaller pieces, but it remains that material, it remains plastic. And one of the issues that we're seeing with that in relation to sea turtles is that they're actually ingesting this plastic and mistaking it for food. In this photo right here, these are actually stomach contents of post-hatchling sea turtles that have entered our hospital. And post-hatchling sea turtles are turtles that have made it out into the ocean for some period of time, were able to feed, and then came back to us. Maybe they washed back in, or they were feeling weak or something like that and came to our hospital. But as you can see in all of these vials, it's plastic. One of our patients here is Sherman. That's him in his little robe. He is a hawksbill sea turtle, and he was very small. And as you can see in the vial next to him, that was all extracted from his stomach. Luckily, Sherman was a bit larger and he was able to pass the plastic, which rarely happens. Sorry about that. But he was able to pass it and was able to be released. When they're a little bit smaller, that doesn't tend to happen, but he was lucky and able to make it back into the ocean. So we are conducting regular beach cleanup efforts. We actually have our second annual Tour de Trash coming up in September, so keep an eye out for that. It's a large-scale beach cleanup marine debris removal road trip that we go on with our mobile marine debris sorting station trailer. So it's always a lot of fun. But to date, we have conducted about 60 cleanups, engaged over 2,000 volunteers, and removed over 1,800 pounds of trash from the marine environment, which is also equal to 93,971 individual pieces. And out of all of that, 85.4% of all of that debris was actually made of plastic. So that's pretty shocking. And yes, we do go through every single piece of debris that's collected. So after every beach and underwater cleanup, our team of very committed conservation volunteers and interns will actually sort through every single piece of trash and enter it into a database. Our underwater cleanup efforts as well, we've only managed to go on 2 underwater cleanups so far under the pier to help remove that derelict fishing gear that poses a severe entanglement risk to sea turtles and other marine life. But we've removed over 50 pounds so far, and we hope to do many more at other piers around Palm Beach County. But I mentioned that we enter all this marine debris data into a database, and we use that information not to torture our volunteers and our interns to make them sort trash all the time, but to create pollution prevention initiatives and various programs that will help stop debris at the source. So all of that hard work, all of that data, all of that trash juice leads to balloon bans that are really important to prevent debris and balloons from entering the sky, which will then go onto our beaches, restaurant programs and other recognition and plastic reduction programs throughout the community, like our Blue Table restaurant program, various pollution prevention initiatives. In this slide, that is called a litter trap, and that actually helps to catch stormwater runoff and all the debris that is in it. So that will not enter the marine environment. And then various education and outreach campaigns like Straw Free with LMC and other campaigns like that to help just raise awareness of what individuals can do to help prevent the problem. I always like to ask this question. I'll just give everyone kind of a second to maybe talk amongst yourself if you're in a group. But one of my questions is, does anyone know what this piece of debris found on the beach is? Sorry, I'm very popular today. I'm usually not this popular. Apologies. Does anyone have any guesses of what this might be? This is plastic found on the beach. I'll give you a couple of seconds. It's definitely a tough one, and no Googling. I will know. Okay. If we have given up, and I guess if it's recorded, you could just pause it, but if we've given up, again, it was a trick question, but this is actually an octopus trap. So this octopus trap is a very interesting item. This was found here in Juno Beach, Florida. We've actually found probably about 20 of them at this point on our beaches, just right out here. But what makes this marine debris item unique is that it is used and pretty much found in one place in the world, and it's not Florida. It's West Africa. So that means that this octopus trap, while being used, broke off and managed to float over 4,000 miles across the ocean's currents to wash up on our beaches here. That's pretty crazy, but that also paints a really good picture. It really tells a story of how this problem of marine debris and ocean plastic is not one country's problem, not one individual's problem, not one organization's problem, but all of our problem. It's a global issue, and we are all connected by the currents, and it's something that we all need to play a part in helping to fix and helping to solve. Our debris is going other places as well. It actually goes up to around the UK, and we're getting trash from other places. So it's really interesting how the currents are like conveyor belts, and how you never know. They say one person's trash is another man's treasure, and we're like, oh my gosh, look at this, like from West Africa, this debris item. So it's definitely interesting, but it tells a really, really impactful story. And then how we can all help in this issue. Make sure that when you go to the beach, take all trash with you when you leave. Make sure that you're reducing your use of disposable plastic items in everyday life. Think about what you could possibly eliminate from your life that's a disposable plastic item, maybe utensils that you don't need to take when you take takeout or anything like that, and be a responsible consumer. If you're choosing items that aren't packaged in plastic, you are showing what kind of future you want to see, and that's really powerful as a consumer. And then also volunteer. You can volunteer with wildlife conservation organizations all over South Florida and help do beach cleanups or help with the wildlife conservation efforts that they're doing at their location. So volunteering is really powerful as well. And then my final threat to sea turtles is habitat loss and human activities. Sea turtles on land face a variety of threats when they come up to nest, and some of them are pretty obvious and then others are not. Sea turtle nesting habitats can be destroyed by oceanfront development. It can be disturbed by beach degradation, seafloor dredging, all different types of things. Also, brightly lit oceanfront homes. If those lights aren't turned off at night, hatchlings mistake it for the moon, and then they will go towards your home instead of towards the beach where they have to go. They have very valuable energy resources that they need to really make that trek from the nest to the ocean. And when they're wasting it or getting disoriented and going towards the road or going the wrong direction, they have a very low chance of making it back to the ocean safely unless they're found by someone. So make sure you're turning off the lights at night. And then also, holes in the sand and sandcastles can pose a really big threat to nesting and hatchling sea turtles. That little hole you might have dug in the sand could be a giant pit for a baby hatchling sea turtle that they cannot get out of, and then they'll be picked off, unfortunately. Or the big hole you dug can be disastrous for a nesting sea turtle trying to come up to the beach to nest. And then also making sure that you are removing all furniture, umbrellas, everything like that from the beach, because when hatchling sea turtles and nesting sea turtles are making their way up the beach, they're on a mission and they can get entangled in anything that's left behind, from umbrellas to beach chairs to anything like that. So we have actually created here at Loggerhead a Respect the Locals campaign to help just remind everyone of how we can best coexist in these shared spaces that we share with the real locals of the area that have been coming here for years and years and years, and will hopefully continue to do so if we're able to respectfully coexist with them and make sure that we're maintaining a safe environment for them to be able to continue to reproduce and to thrive, and then we will as well. So if you abide by the points here and the tips on the Respect the Locals campaign, that is a great way to make sure that you are applying beachgoer best practices during nesting season, which again is from March 1st to October 31st. And then finally, again, how can you help? Apply the Respect the Locals best practices to what you're doing during nesting season, and then share with others what you've learned. I am a very big proponent of going up to people and being like, hey, you forgot to fill your hole in on the beach and let's do it together. So a lot of people just don't even realize that that's something that can really mean life or death for a sea turtle. And the second they know, a lot of people are really excited to help out and be a sea turtle saver as well. So I really appreciate everyone listening and just talking with me a little bit of trash, but then also how we can all best respect the locals together during nesting season and make a great beach and marine environment for our sea turtles.
That was awesome. Oh my gosh, I have like goosebumps.
Oh, thank you so much.
Jeffrey in the comments said same thing, thank you for an excellent presentation. And a lot of the stuff that you talked about, we actually have with our patients as well. We are still new at like doing different like conservation type things because we're first and foremost a hospital. But like a lot of that stuff you guys have been able to accomplish. That's like the goal. So it's super exciting. And I know that a lot of like us being further south in South Florida, we see, our beaches definitely affected. And, we're always trying to promote ocean conservation in our own way. We've done a couple beach cleanups more so for like the seabirds, because same thing, they get entrapped in things, or they'll come in with swallowed fish hooks, and we try and work with the piers down here as well. So I think it's just awesome that you guys are doing such really great work. And, hopefully, people in general can just understand that we are sharing our space, with everyone who was here before us. And, we're trying to kind of cohabitate and do the best we can. So thank you again for talking to us. It's really, really cool. And like I said, I'm super excited to kind of see where you guys go and how we, can even be inspired by some of the stuff that you guys are currently doing.
I was just gonna say, we talked about it in the beginning. We all have to work together on this. So please let us know just how we can collaborate on any of these. The RPI does have bird signs, so I don't know if you want those. They're all the materials are free and stuff. So we definitely should have some chats, and we just appreciate what everyone's doing for our wildlife. It's gonna take all of us. So, and thank you everyone for listening. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. I'm gonna stop the recording.